Hey everybody, it's Jenny from Norman S. Wright. I thought we'd move away from the topic of sound and discuss indoor air quality for the next couple of videos. So let's start with ASHRAE Standard 62.1, Ventilation for Acceptable Indoor Air Quality. Let's get started. ASHRAE Standard 62.1, Ventilation for Acceptable Indoor Air Quality, tells you how to design for acceptable indoor air quality. There are many sections in the standard that covers particle size and VOCs, but today I'm just going to cover ventilation air. Ventilation air is the fresh air that we bring into buildings for indoor air quality. The standard defines how much fresh air to bring into a building. Often when you look at a building, you'll see louvers somewhere on the outside. That's the outside air intake. It's where the outside air is entering the building. Hopefully, because you want it to be fresh air, they're not located near a source of contamination like the dumpsters or loading dock or an exhaust fan. ASHRAE 62.1 sets minimum distances for these things. For instance, ASHRAE 62.1 says your outside air intakes need to be located 15 feet from a chimney and 25 feet from a loading dock. You can look at the standard to see other specifics about where you can or can't put your outside air intake, but you get the picture. I want to focus mostly on ventilation volume, so let's move this out of the way. So how do you know how much ventilation air you need to bring into a building? Well, ASHRAE has a table for that. It depends on how many people are in a zone and how big the zone is. The table, called Minimum Ventilation Rates in Breathing Zone, gives you a minimum airflow per person and per square foot for different types of spaces. So for a classroom, which is further down on this chart, but for a classroom for ages 5 through 8, it says 10 CFM per person and 0.12 CFM per square foot. So let's say you have 20 kids in a 30 by 30 classroom. Well, that would be 20 times 10 CFM per kid, plus 0.12 times the 30 by 30 classroom, and that gives you 308 CFM of ventilation air. But what happens if you don't know how many people are going to be in this classroom? Well, ASHRAE has default values for that you can use to calculate as well. So the default value for this classroom is 25 people per 1,000 square feet and 15 CFM per person. So now we would take our 25 people times 900 square feet of the space divided by the 1,000 in the default times 15 CFM is 338 CFM of ventilation air in this classroom. There's another section that I want to discuss, and that's the zone air effectiveness table. It looks like this. Basically, different air distribution methods have different ventilation effectiveness. The effectiveness is how much of that ventilation air actually gets into the breathing zone. For instance, the typical ceiling supply of cold air gets an easy score of 1.0, meaning that 100% of the fresh air brought in will get into the breathing zone. On the other hand, a ceiling supply of warm air that is more than 15 degrees over room temperature only has an easy of 0.8. Anything under a 1.0 would mean that you need to bring more ventilation air into the space. That's why you want to be sure your overhead heating supply air temperature is no greater than 15 degrees over the room temperature, and that the 150 feet per minute throw reaches 4.5 feet above the floor, because this is an EZ of 1.0. There's obviously a lot more detail in ASHRAE 62.1, but that's the basic calculation for how much ventilation air you need to bring into your space. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and thanks for watching.